live. And thank you a lot for being here and for watching this later on as a footage, and especially for all of you that are going to watch this as a live broadcast. My name is Ivica, and this time around, I would love to talk with you, to you, about an upcoming MMO FPS game called Pioneer, spelled with just one E, which looks really promising to me and something that is pretty interesting in terms of the things that it's bringing to the table and what the overall market is when it comes to massive multiplayer online games and those that are in the first person shooter genre. So hopefully, if you're familiar with the gaming place, the game that we're talking about here is Pioneer. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. A little background: Pioneer started to be developed back in 2021 by a team called GFK Games, I'm pretty sure, or GFO Games, something like that. And it's being developed with the support of Tencent, the huge Chinese conglomerate working, among other things, in gaming as well. And basically, the game is a crossbreed between several famous series or even genres. First of them being, of course, the Fallout series. Second is the Metro 2030 series. Then we have the Escape from Tarkov. And finally, there are a lot of vibes from the Stalker series as well. All of these come together in Pioneer, which is going to enter its open beta this month, or more precisely in October, so pretty soon, in a month or so, even less. And it provides a pretty cool combo of influences, at least in my view, even though the trailers themselves might not do it justice in terms of presenting what's actually happening in the game. So basically, like in most post-apocalyptic games or storylines, you're set on an island, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, that has been subjected to some kind of apocalypse, I'm guessing, or a kind of end of the world, and you're in the heart of it. Metal Gear Balkan says the game sounds good and fun. Thanks a lot for joining. I'm glad to hear that you're familiar with it, and I would love to hear more your thoughts about it. And thanks for the comment, I really appreciate it. So once again, we're talking about a game called Pioneer that is entering its open beta phase in October, and it's a massive multiplayer online first-person shooter. So on that island that is in the midst of an apocalypse, you have all of the things that you would expect to have in a world that is similar, in my view, most similar to Stalker. So it's basically a vibe of a Soviet republic or some kind of a Soviet, post-Soviet space that has been overrun with monsters, weird artifacts, energies, and of course weird growth in terms of plants and the wildlife that is mixed now with survivors and people just like you who are trying to get by, or even that are part of a faction that is trying to kind of jockey for supremacy in the same space. Now, of course, the first mechanic is going to be the shooter part, because it's an FPS that really makes the game look incredibly similar to Stalker, more or less. A lot more than, for example, Fallout. It seems to be not that geared towards an RPG. It's more something that is, like I say, a mixture or a mix between Stalker and Escape from Tarkov. So there is going to be a lot of focus on your weapons, how you change it, improve it, modify it, and kind of evolve your loadout. And besides that, there are also gadgets and these kind of weird energy entities that are present in the trailers that should also give you either powers or the ability to find stuff or something else. In the trailer, I also saw a bit of some kind of like a Palm PDF or PDA, what was it called back in the day, device that the player is using to kind of figure out directions or elements of gameplay on the map. And that's another element that is pretty visible in trailers. The maps and the environments look really good. The same goes for weapons. That's why the game reminds me very much of Stalker Part 2. The game presents a huge range of weapons from like pistols to complex firearms that are assault weapons to imaginary stuff like double barrel shotguns that are huge and stuff like that. All of them look really detailed, look really precise. There was clearly a lot of effort to make these look really good. The same applies to the environments, and the environments themselves are very diverse, and that's a problem for a lot of post-apocalyptic games because you often end up with something that is basically a Mad Max world, a world from the Mad Max series, where you have a lot of desert, a lot of dust, and a lot of scrap that is either brown or dark brown. And those are not that appealing actually when you play games for hours and hours. The sepia feel of those games kind of gets tiring and gets boring. However, in this case, there is a lot of different environments. So we have a lot of like nature that could belong to, for example, Northern Europe or Russia or something like that, with pine trees and everything. But there are also kind of shantytown cities, fortifications, there are abandoned factories, everything you basically saw in the Stalker series. Hi everybody, I see that some of you just joined in. Thanks a lot for being here. I'm talking about a game called Pioneer that is presently being developed and it should get into open beta phase in October. And I'm talking about the reasons I think it looks pretty interesting. So in those environments, you'll have that kind of necessity to survive, but also to expand and basically grow. That will include some kind of base building process. So I saw articles that are mentioning it, but I didn't see it actually in the game itself. Chances are that you will get to build some kind of your permanent base. Whether or not it's going to be kind of a meta thing where you just update your gear and do stuff like that, or will it be something that is physically present in the game in form of the fort that you can kind of defend or attack forts from other players? That's kind of still up for grabs in my view. I didn't kind of get that fully, but still it's going to be something that should add a lot to the gameplay loop. Straight says hello to you too as well. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you'll find this stream interesting. It's about a game, upcoming MMO RPG, upcoming MMO FPS called Pioneer. And Metal Gear Balkan says hello again. Hello to you too once more. And of course, hello to everyone listening to this and watching this. I would love to hear what you think about Pioneer if you got a chance to check it out. Straight says, I love RPGs. This should be more of a FPS, a first-person shooter. There will be clearly RPG elements. I'm not sure if they're going to be on the same level as Fallout. I'm pretty sure they won't because Fallout is complex. Metal Gear Balkan says RPGs are good games. Yes, they're one of my favorite genres, especially the first-person RPGs like Fallout. But if you take Fallout 3 or even Fallout New Vegas, of course Fallout 4, they are very complex in the sense that you have so many options of improving your character, building up your character, choosing perks, and kind of creating basically a class that you're playing with. I'm not sure if Pioneer is going to have that, mainly because it's a multiplayer game, so you're going to play with other players, and there will be ways to kind of improve things and change things, but I think they're going to focus more on weapon loadouts than actually character building. Metal Gear Balkan says my favorite are Fallout 1 and New Vegas. New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time. So I started playing it without any expectations. I was more into Fallout 1 or 2. I didn't really enjoy the transition to the first person in Fallout 3, which I didn't play at that point. But I got to play Fallout New Vegas, I don't know, like 15 years ago or 14 years ago, and it blew my mind. It was really a perfect game. Still one of the best games I ever played. Straight says a good game. Yeah, I completely agree. And of course, thanks everyone who's joining us right now. We're talking about the new MMO FPS called Pioneer and why it should be interesting if you're into genres like that. If you'd like to chime in, let me know what you think. Please use the comments below. I would appreciate it. And of course, I'm going to read it to everyone else. In Pioneer, the base building element is going to be pretty important because it's going to connect directly to crafting, which is going to be present in the game, and also the options you have when it comes to evolving or improving or changing your loadouts and your weapons. So these should be pretty complex, you can see in the trailers that the weapons that the players are using are all over the place. Like I said, there are even like spears with kind of explosive tips or chemical tips that you saw, for example, in Mad Max Fury Road, that are being used like more or less a melee weapon. But of course, a lot of firearms, a lot of like Eastern European weapons, and all of those are in the mix, which is pretty cool. Metal Gear Balkan says, my favorite game of all time is Half-Life 2, another awesome game. I'm not a big fan of Fallout, actually. I loved Fallout 1. Fallout 2 didn't really sit that well with me. I found it kind of repetitive, a lot of like driving and combat, then on foot combat, and it just didn't like vibe with me. But I know that so many people love it. And it's a really high quality game in every sense. It just didn't kind of get with me, with my interest at that point, even though it was many years ago as well. The open beta for Pioneer, like I said, starts in October. I think it's a pretty good shot that the game is going to be popular, at least for those initial like open beta players, because right now we don't have anything that is similar to that kind of feel of post-apocalyptic, Fallout-ish, or Metro-ish, or stalkerish game, but the interplay of these mechanics will determine how successful the game ultimately is. And there are a lot of them, and making them kind of work together is not going to be an easy process. It's going to be challenging and demanding, of course, but we'll see the results. I would, of course, love to hear what you think about Pioneer as you try it out in October. Metal Gear Balkan says, you brother have a great taste for video games. Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. It was great to hear your takes and thoughts about this. This is basically it for this broadcast. If you're first time listener, first time viewer, please check out the rest of my channel. Subscribe, check out my other content. I'm really happy to see you here. Thanks to everyone who was here from the start. Thanks to Straight, thanks to Metal Gear Balkan. It was a pleasure to be able to talk to all of you about this. Metal Gear Balkan says, for me, this game sounds good. Do check it out. I think it's worth a shot. I think it's going to be a free-to-play title for sure, especially in the open beta later on as well. So it might be good for anyone who is into MMOs, who is into FPS games, who is into games that are post-apocalyptical in nature, like I said, like Fallout or Escape from Tarkov, in terms of mechanic, not actually the post-apocalyptic element, but Metro and Stalker, all of these seem to be very much present in Pioneer, so do check it out. And thanks for everyone for being here. That would be all for this broadcast. Please subscribe, please check out my other videos, and I'll see you on my next YouTube Vertical Live. Until then, bye bye.